All right, this is 1-3 practice day 2 of literal equations and formulas. Okay, now when I go through these, I might go through a little fast at times, but the purpose of the video is for you to be able to pause it, rewind, whatever you need. If I go too slow, I don't want the video to drag on, but I'll also try to slow down and point out key things as they come up. So let's go ahead and do number 1. We have, I'm going to try to zoom in for you. Okay, m plus 3n equals 7. That's the equation. And they want you to solve for n. Okay, they want you to get n by itself. Okay, after you do that, it says solve it for, oh, actually, every one of these we're going to solve the equation for m. Then we find the value for m for each value of n. Okay, so the way you read this, we're going to solve it for m, and then when we plug in 1 for n, we should be able to get an answer for m. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that. So solving for m, it means we need to get m by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the equation down here by itself so we don't have to get distracted by the other things written beside it. M plus 3n equals 7. I want to solve for m. I make my wall. Okay, I look at the m. What's happening to the m? I'm adding 3n. The opposite math, or the inverse operation, would be negative 3n. I do that on both sides to keep it balanced. These cancel. The 7 and the negative 3n are not like terms, so I can't combine them. I just write them side by side. 7 minus 3n. So now I have m by itself. I have solved for m. m is equal to 7 minus 3n. So now if n has a value of 1, I can plug the 1 right here in the place of n, do the math. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it right below there. m equals 7 minus 3 times 1. 3 times 1 is 3. 7 minus 3 is 4. So the value of m is 4. So you kind of have two answers here. The first answer is getting your equation where you isolated that variable. The second is after you plugged in the value, you have an actual answer. Okay, let's do number 3. Negative 5n equals 4m plus 8. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite that down below. And again, I want to get m by itself. This time the m is on the right-hand side of the equal sign. I'm going to isolate my variable. I'm going to put a box around my m term. It has 4m, and what I have over there with it is a plus 8 that I need to get rid of. Let's do minus 8 on both sides. 8 minus 8 cancels out to 0. Over here I have negative 5n minus 8. I can't combine those terms. I'm just going to write them side by side. So negative 5n minus 8 equals 4m. Okay, now that I have the m term isolated, now I can go ahead and get the m by itself. What's going on here is multiplication. 4 times m. The opposite step would be divide both sides by 4. So I divide by 4. What I have here is negative 5n over 4. And you could also write that as negative 5/4 n. It's the same thing. Okay? I also have negative 8 divided by 4. That just gives me 2. So negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2, or minus 2. So what I have here is negative 5 over 4n minus 2 equals m. Now, I can go ahead and put this 1 here. If n is 1, that would be negative 5/4 times 1. That just gives me negative 5/4. Okay? Negative 5/4 minus 2. Now, if you had your yellow calculator, your Inspire, you could just put that right in. I don't have one with me, so I'm going to go ahead and do the steps. Okay, negative 5/4 times 1 is negative 5/4. And I need to take away 2. Well, I can change 2 into an improper fraction. Okay? I want to, let's see, 2 times 4 is 8. So basically, 2 is the same value as 8 over 4. The reason I know that is 8 divided by 4 gives me 2. So it's basically saying negative 5/4 minus 8/4, and that gives me negative 13/4. So there's one answer, and then here's the equation with m isolated. All right, so that was a little more complicated. Let's do number 5. Number 5, we have 8n equals negative 3m plus 1. Let's write that again. Negative 3m plus 1. We make our wall. We want to get m by itself. I'm going to isolate that term, find the term that has m. There it is. I have to get rid of this guy. The opposite of plus 1 is minus 1 on both sides. So that cancels. This looks real similar to number 4, actually, except the numbers are friendlier. 8n minus 1, I cannot combine that. I can just write them side by side. 8n minus 1 equals negative 3m. My final step is to divide both sides, but watch out here. We don't change signs when you go from multiply to divide. The negative 3 that's being multiplied, you're just dividing by negative 3. Okay? You don't do anything else but that. So now that cancels. So we have 8 over 3. It's basically 8n divided by negative 3 gives you basically the same thing as negative 8 over 3n. And then what is negative 1 divided by negative 3? That gives you a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So that's positive 1/3. So you have negative 8 over 3n plus 1/3 equals m. Okay, so it started off nice, but the numbers got a little messy at the end. Now, what can we do here? We have, we know the value for n. They're telling us here n is going to be 2. So I plug in a 2 here, and I go ahead and solve that. So I'm going to go ahead and write it over here to the side. Negative 8 over 3 times 2 plus 1/3 equals m. Okay? And again, if you had this in the calculator, at this point you could just do NSOLVE because you only have one variable now that you've plugged in the 2 for the value of n. Okay, what is 8 times 2? It's 16. And 16 divided by 3 does not come out friendly. So I get negative 16 over 3 plus 1 over 3. I can combine those now. Negative 16 and plus 1 gives me negative 15 over 3. And that you can divide. Negative 15 over 3 basically becomes negative 5. So you get that the value of m is negative 5 after all those messy fractions. Again, once you plug in a number for one of the variables, you can go right into NSOLVE if you need to. Let's do number 13. We have, all we're doing here is solving the equation for x. So we are not plugging in any numbers here. We're just solving for x and we're done. So we have negative 3 times the quantity of x plus n equals x. So we have x over here and over here. We have parentheses here. Looks like we have some distribution we need to take care of right at the outset. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times a positive n gives me negative 3n. Okay, that's the left side. On the right side, all I have is x. Okay, since I want to get x by itself, it says solve for x. I already have an x by himself over here. What I think I might do is go ahead and move these x's over here as well. Opposite math tells me to do plus 3x on both sides. That cancels. And x plus 3x gives me 4x, combining those like terms. So on the left I have negative 3n, on the right I have 4x. Final step, divide both sides by negative 3. So you see how you have a negative on the bottom? Really, it's kind of like a fraction with the negative on the outside. So n is equal to negative 4/3 x. You could also write that like that, 4 over negative 3x. It's all the same thing. There's one negative in the entire problem. Okay? I hope that helps, and ask questions if you have any.